feeding the appropriate non-human animals through that hole onto the other side of being legal persons. Now, at that time, there was very little known about or spoken about truly animal rights, about the idea of having legal personhood or legal rights for a non-human animal, and I knew it was going to take a long time. And so in 1985 I figured that it would take about 30 years before we'd be able to even begin a strategic litigation long-term campaign in order to be able to punch another hole through that wall. It turned out that I was pessimistic, that it only took 28. So what we had to do in order to begin was not only to write the law review articles and teach classes, write books, but we had to then begin to get out to the nuts and bolts of how you litigate that kind of case. So one of the first things we needed to do was figure out what a cause of action was, a legal cause of action. And a legal cause of action is a vehicle that lawyers use to put their arguments in front of courts. It turns out there's a very interesting case that had occurred almost 250 years ago in London called Somerset versus Stewart, whereby a black slave had used the legal system and had moved from a legal thing to a legal person. I was so interested in it that I eventually wrote an entire book about it. James Somerset was an 8-year-old boy when he was kidnapped from West Africa. He survived the Middle Passage and he was sold to a Scottish businessman named Charles Stewart in Virginia. Now, 20 years later, Stewart brought James Somerset to London, and after he got there, James decided he was going to escape. And so one of the first things he did was to get himself baptized, because he wanted to get a set of godparents, because to an 18th century slave they knew that one of the major responsibilities of godfathers was to help you escape. And so in the fall of 1771, James Somerset had a confrontation with Charles Stewart. We don't know exactly what happened, but then James dropped out of sight, and enraged Charles Stewart then hired slave catchers to canvass the city of London, find him, bring him not back to Charles Stewart, but to a ship, the Anne and Mary, that was floating in London Harbour, and he was chained to the deck, and the ship was to set sail for Jamaica, where James was to be sold in the slave market and be doomed to the 3 to 5 years of life that a slave has harvesting sugar cane in Jamaica. Well, now James' godparents swung into action. They approached the most powerful judge, Lord Mansfield, who was chief judge of the Court of King's Bench, and they demanded that he issue a common law writ of habeas corpus on behalf of James Somerset. Now, the common law is the kind of law that English-speaking judges can make when they're not cabined in by statutes or constitutions, and a writ of habeas corpus is called that great writ, capital G, capital W, and is meant to protect any of us who are detained against our will. A writ of habeas corpus is issued. The detainer is required to bring the detaining in and give a legally sufficient reason for depriving him of his bodily liberty. Well, Lord Mansfield had to make a decision right after the bet, because if James Somerset was a legal thing, he was not eligible for a writ of habeas corpus, only if he could be a legal person. So Lord Mansfield decided that he would assume, without deciding, that James Somerset was indeed a legal person, and he issued the writ of habeas corpus, and James' body was brought in